Good morning, y'all. It is Memorial Day weekend. Very special holiday weekend for my family. We are a military family. We are located at Camp Semper Canine in Northern Virginia, adjacent to Marine Corps Base Quantico. It is time for our weekly garden tour. And this is week 3 of our 2020 vegetable garden tour, the Semper Fresh Garden. I'd like to start us off in the front of the garden, as always, in this area that we recently planted about 4 weeks ago. This was a little bit of an afterthought. I'm actually sitting where our tiny house used to be. We've actually moved the tiny house across the way over there and decided to plant this front part of the garden for when people drive up and they can see it. And we have kind of named this the kids area. Our children kind of take care of this area, and we've planted some fun stuff in there for them. So here we have some wildflowers that are starting to pop up, and we also have mammoth sunflowers in the back. We have a bee colony that we added last week. I'll show you that in a moment, so this will be great for them. We also have this dwarf cherry tree that is just really growing. When we first planted it, it was just a stick, so it's really taken off. We have some nasturtiums, our sempervivum succulents, our favorites for outdoor gardening. These are called the hen and chicks. And then right here next to the rainbow arch trellis, we have some lemon cucumber. And I have also planted over here golden midget watermelon. On this side of the trellis, we have our Keuka Melons. Little bitty plant right here, a Keuka melon plant. We also have razzmatazz grapes. And I've planted 2 noodle beans and a Kajari melon seed in this little area. We also have some more hen and chicks. And then we have 4 all-star strawberry plants that the kids have already harvested a few strawberries off of, as well as 3 thornless blackberry bushes that I picked up from Gurney's. We also have some sunflowers planted there in the back. This bed has a lot of flowers in it, so we have our zinnias that are popping up, our dwarf sunflowers, and our Johnny jump ups. These were a favorite of mine when I was a child, so I'm excited to see them pop up and make new memories with my children. Then we have rosemary and lemongrass in this bed. Now on to a lot of our beans. So these are all green beans. We have Blue Lake Pole green beans in these beds, and we have half white runners on this side for these 2 rows. On this row and half of the back of the right side of this trellis is green beans that I started in the greenhouse. Beans typically do not want to be started in the greenhouse. They don't like their roots disturbed. However, this year I'm doing a lot of experimenting, and I thought, why not? Let's just give it a try. Still on the fence about thinning these. My mom says to keep them. She always kept them and everything produced well. A lot of people are telling me to thin them. Since I have so many spaced out on this side, I don't know what happened over here, other than my oldest son helped me plant, and he might have gotten them a little too close. So I'm not really sure what to do. I may just leave this side as is, and we have so many spaced apart here. If they look like they're starting to get sick or not produce, I may thin them later. In this bed, we have one of my favorite. These are Christmas pole beans. They're a Lima bean variety. They're like a big speckled butter bean. They're just really delicious. These plants that you see, they're well established, were started in the greenhouse. So again, I'm doing a little bit of experimenting. I use these biodegradable pods, and as soon as I saw their roots starting to try to poke through, I planted them in the ground. Over here in this weedy side that I need to come and weed this week, I did a lot of weeding over the weekend. This bed did not get taken care of. I direct sowed the rest of these, and I just put these trellises up last week with my husband. Chris and I put these up, and where some of the plants did not pop up, I did go back in and direct sow about a week ago, so we should be seeing some new plants coming up in those spots as well. And this bed has our squash, our yellow crookneck, yellow early straight neck, and black zucchini, the black beauty, well, green zucchini, black beauty. I thought a lot of these were gonna die in the frost. We planted these early. I started them in the greenhouse, and as you can see, they're actually starting to get ready to bloom. So I'm super excited. This plant I thought for sure was a goner. There are some that are more puny. I'm just gonna leave them. And as you can see, they're all planted rather close. I am going to try vertical gardening on the squash in this bed. I will plant them over in the corn area later on in the season, so we'll have another harvest come through late in the summer season. But for these, I'm going to try my best to do some vertical gardening with them, and I also see some weeds that need to be taken out of this one as well. So I talked about this area in one of my last videos. This was kind of an afterthought area. We did not garden here last year. I had some Lima beans that I had started in the greenhouse that I planted on this side, and then I direct sowed some onto this side. Unfortunately, right after I did my beans, we got 3+ inches of rain overnight. So this side completely got washed out. I think if you go to my Instagram page, you can see one of the pictures I posted of the before and after. It was just a mess. So I did this raised bed. I built the cedar bed Mother's Day weekend, planted direct sow lima beans into the spots where the plants didn't make it, and I pulled them up. And then on this side I have all of my tomato plants, and we also have a mammoth sunflower that'll pop out right here as well. You can see the difference in my tomato plants. These are red cherry, and these were planted at the same time in the greenhouse in the same soil conditions, same supplement that they got. And this one is really taking off right here, and these two are still puny. I'm gonna leave them. I need to come in and do some pruning because I see suckers on some of these. And there have been 2 that have just didn't make it. I think I have 30 plants in this row. There's 2 that didn't make it. So I will replant in their place. I have some backups in the greenhouse of a bunch of different variety tomato plants. So I will plant those there. In these bags, we have potatoes. Our seed potatoes came in really late. They were back ordered. We just got them about 2.5 weeks ago. We divided them, let them cure, got them ready to go in the ground. And we have in this area russet potatoes. We have red potatoes in this area. This is our first time growing potatoes. Also in the back of the garden, I have 2 buckets with russet potatoes. Chris is kind of in charge of the potato growing. He did all the research on it, so I'm kind of letting him take the lead on it, but I'm excited because we love potatoes, and really looking forward to seeing how these do, especially since we got a little bit of a late start. Another new addition is our Russian honeybee colonies. We have 2 hives here, 2 separate colonies. They will be getting moved. As you can see, our debris pile is still there. Unfortunately, the contractors we hired did not do a great job. I will take care of that separately, but our bees will be going back here in this area once we can get the rest of this cleared. We don't want to really disturb them too much. And then we also have to get this pile cleared that did not even get touched by the contractors we hired. That happens sometimes. It's just really sad that we're a veteran service organization, and they pretty much took advantage of us. But anyway, that's another topic. Let's stay positive. Okay, this section is our okra and pepper bed. We have our Clemson spineless okra that I planted early in the season. It made it through the frost. It almost didn't make it through the birds. The birds kind of got after some of the limbs when we first got these into the ground, so I just left them, and they have already bloomed a couple of times. These are my absolute favorite blooms in the garden, is an okra bloom. I also have, these are Clemson spineless. I also have some emerald white, or is it emerald green? I think it's emerald green okra seeds that I have planted here. And I have okra all throughout the garden. It is a great companion plant. So it's definitely something that you could almost plant anywhere in your garden. The soil conditions do not have to be perfect for them. Okra thrives. It just needs the heat. So you can't plant it in the early spring, even though I did these, but I babied them all through the frost, or the frost warnings that we had in early May. And okra just does really well, and it produces all season if you stay on top of picking them, because you have to pick them fast. My curly leaf basil is doing great. I pruned the bottom limbs and you can see that they're already starting to reproduce. I have our lemon thyme here. Our peppers are doing great. They're really growing a lot this week with this heat we've had. We have our 3 jalapenos here, 4 sweet banana peppers. This one is an orange lunchbox snack pepper. Our mammoth jalapeno is not taking off very well, not doing great there. This is a Big Bertha bell pepper, and then our mixed bell peppers are there, and I have peppers in other spots of the garden as well. You may remember from our last video, I had talked about our tomato plants had black leaf spot. We had 6 in this bed, this half a bed, and I did not want to take the time to treat them. I have so many other tomato plants growing in the garden, so many in the greenhouse, and I've actually done a free plant giveaway last week, raised about $100 for Semper Canine, which was awesome. Just set out a little table in my neighborhood and said, free plants, please make a donation if you can. Got rid of the rest of my pepper and tomato plant starts that I had that I didn't have space for right now. And anyway, so I've got plenty of tomato plants. I've probably got 7 or 8 different varieties in the greenhouse right now growing, maybe even more. But decided to treat this bed. We flipped it, amended the soil, added more compost, and just decided to plant flowers in this bed because I did notice that my Genovese basil, the bottom leaves had black leaf spot. The stems did not. The stems on the tomatoes already had it as well. So that's why I decided just to go burn them. And we pulled them up, we burnt them, we sanitized all the tools. We are probably not going to use the tomato cages this year that we had them in. We'll clean those really well just to try to be super cautious on spreading disease. Our parsley is going to bolt, so we may be pulling this up later and planting something else here. We don't eat the parsley. I tried to give it away to friends and family. Only a few people took me up on the offer. I rarely cook with parsley, and I even tried to find some recipes that would do well with parsley. And I just prefer other herbs. We do feed this to our chickens. They love it. They will wait for me over in their area when they see me over here clipping stuff because they know I'm going to bring them some snacks. But because it's going to bolt, I don't know that I really want this much parsley planted here. I could plant it over closer to the chicken coop in the raised bed over there so that they could just snack on it through the fence. Or when we finally get our chicken chunnels in, we can just plant parsley on, all around the chunnels so that they have that little bit to snack on. Plants that we have are doing great. Our blueberry bushes, no blooms or anything yet. I thought they died last year, transplanted them to this part of the garden this year. They seem to love this area better. Kind of letting them be. I'm not expecting any blueberries this year. If we get some, great. If not, then there's next year. We've also added a red apple tree. The variety just says Columnar red, tasty red urban apple tree. That's what it says on the tag. Supposedly we're gonna get some fruit later this year. There's no blooms, so it may be next year, but we also have to find a permanent spot for it. It needs to get out of that bucket. So we've been trying to determine if we're gonna plant it outside the garden once we get this area cleared, or if we're gonna try to plant it inside the garden. We don't know yet. And then our blackberry bushes have gotten tons of blooms. We even have some blackberries coming up over here. So my oldest is super excited. We rarely find blackberries that are fresh in the grocery store. As you know, they have a short shelf life because they're so fragile of a fruit. And we do a lot of blackberry picking on the side of the roads, but now we'll have our very own here, and we're looking forward to adding to these later in the fall. Okay, now we are on to, I guess our broccoli bed is what I've kind of called this. We have our artwork broccoli that we have actually harvested off of several times this week. Last week, I think I talked about some hornworm infestation. It was actually cabbage loopers. So we have been picking cabbage looper caterpillars off of this. I have ordered some organic powder to dust these with. that was recommended by everyone that I follow. Oh, we have a little honeybee over here. What you doing, buddy? So excited to have these guys, even though I'm allergic to bees. When I get stung by a bee, I have a very terrible reaction, so I'm trying my best. That sound of bees buzzing instantly triggers for me because I do have a severe reaction when I get stung by bees, but I'm doing my best to stay calm because I know how beneficial they are for our garden and how great they will be. Plus, we've had several beekeeping classes from a local neighbor that we have, and our veterans have attended that, and our volunteers have attended that. So it's a very great educational tool, plus it's so beneficial for the garden, and someday we might have our own Semper Fresh honey, so super excited about that. But back to the broccoli. So this artwork broccoli, I probably will definitely grow this again next year, and I do need to get my clippers out and harvest this. These little, I didn't know that the side shoots would develop side shoots. So back in my first video when we harvested just the tops, all of the side shoots started instantly budding broccoli heads. Once I started harvesting the tops of the side shoots, all the side shoots started instantly budding heads. So I'm really excited to have this broccoli this year, and I will definitely be growing more artwork broccoli next year. This is our lieutenant broccoli, still doing great. Have some nasturtiums in here next to the dill. My dill's looking a little rough on this bed. Rosemary and thyme. Here we have 2 green tomatillos, never grown tomatillos before. Excited to try those. I love salsa and the green verde dip with at the Mexican restaurant, so I'm excited to see how that's gonna look. Here we have our purple Cherokee purple. I say them backwards, so I'm not sure which one it is. Heirloom tomato plant. We're already getting some blooms, so I'm really excited and looking forward to growing that variety. I have a couple of suckers, the little limbs that grow in the armpit that I pruned, that I actually have in the greenhouse right now. I stuck them in soil and watered them, and I'm nurturing them back to see if I can transplant this. I got this plant at a local farmer's market. I have some that I started from seed as well in the greenhouse, but I thought, why not throw this one in here? I also have some chive in the back, and then these are ground cherries. First time growing ground cherries. We've harvested a few that have hit the ground. Oh, there's one right there that is in this spider web. So I will pull this out and take it to the house. Let's see. I don't know if this one's ready yet. I was gonna open it and see. It's really small, and it's not. So it needs to be like an orangey color. We've tasted them and they're really delicious. Interesting taste. So if you've never, if you've never had a ground cherry before, they have a really interesting flavor. So I will take that one back to the house. Okay, and this bed, these tomato plants are just really thriving, and I'm so excited because they looked terrible when I first put them in. But these are San Marzano tomato plants, these two right here, and they're great for paste tomatoes. So I'm really excited to get those grown this year. I did pick those up on sale at Southern States. Anyway, so I picked those up at Southern States and thought that they were going to die. That's why they were on sale. They probably got left out in the frost, but they are just really bouncing back, doing great. Unfortunately, this other plant has 2 main stems, so I'm gonna have to be really careful when I'm pruning that one. I just left it as is. These are orange peppercini that I started from seed in the garden, and these are hot salsa peppers that I started in the garden. This is a pink lady eggplant, I think is what it was called. I got that at the farmer's market. Never grown eggplant. I sometimes like eggplant. It has to be cooked a certain way. So I'm really excited to try this and experiment with cooking. Here's our Keuka melons. I have a couple more transplants that I'm gonna put back here, but I have them on this trellis that'll be really pretty when they start growing. Really excited to try that this year. This will be my first time growing Keuka melons. Doing a lot of experimenting this year in the garden. This is another beefsteak. I need to check my blooms to make sure we don't have any that are doubling up. Looks pretty good. It's almost ready to be pruned again. And then this one's a pink Brandywine. The pink Brandywine was one that a variety that I pulled up out of the other bed. I really love pink Brandywine. They produce well. And then you can see I have a couple empty spots here. I don't know what I'm gonna plant there yet. So I'll stick something good back there though. This bed, we have our iceberg lettuce and our cucumbers. So my cucumbers are really starting to take off now. I have Bragger cucumber variety that I started from seed, Boston pickling that I started from seed, and these are some more lemon cucumbers. And then our kids' little fairy barn that we have going on here for them with their little silo and everything. But anyway, this dill's looking pretty good. I need to keep an eye on it though and trim it, cut it back, save it for my pickles when my cucumbers get ready. Over here I have celery. Have never grown celery before. Excited to see how that's gonna do. I thought it might be dying. Maybe it was getting too much water. I've got to do some research on that. I have 2 more green tomatillos here, a giant zinnia that's gonna sprout out soon, Swiss chard, and then my garlic is just doing crap. It's not doing anything here. I decided just to leave it. I'm gonna just see what it does. It's just not doing well in this bed. Maybe it's the location, but I love using garlic in recipes, so I wanted to grow my own garlic. Just not doing well in this area for some reason. And then here's 2 more russet potato that we're growing. We have 4 small seed potatoes in each bucket. So in this bed I have more tomato plants and peppers, and of course my herbs. Here, this is a sweet banana pepper. I have 3 Roma tomato plants. I thought they were dead. Like when I transplanted them, they looked like they were dying. That's why you should just experiment. Don't give up unless you're just very limited on space and you have additional resources to keep planting. You know, plant other things around and just let it, give it a chance. Experimentation is really your best education tool for gardening. You can read every how-to book, watch every how-to video, but until you actually grow in your own soil, you don't know what's going to work and what's not going to work. What's working for your neighbor is probably not going to work for you. You're going to have different pests. You're going to have different pH levels in your soil, different sun that's hitting your garden. So just experiment, give it a try. I thought these were dead and I was going to have to pull them up and start over, but they are doing great. Then I have 2 jalapeno plants that I planted here. First time growing those, so I'm excited to see how they do. I'm not a big hot pepper person. I don't like a lot of spicy foods. So gonna give those a try and see how they do. This is another sweet banana pepper. We have chive, rosemary, lemon thyme, garden sage, and then the pineapple cherry tomato. This is a sun gold cherry tomato, and so is this one. This one already has some fruit that's dropped. I'm super excited about this one. And then we have our micro cherry tomato. This one is the only determinate variety of tomato that I actually have this year. So this is as big as it's gonna get, and this is as many fruit. It has a predetermined amount of fruit that it's gonna set. These will continue to grow indeterminate tomatoes. There are lots of great YouTube videos out there about them. I'm not going to try to explain it to you or break it down, but indeterminate tomatoes will continue to grow as long as they stay healthy and that they are alive and you've given them support. Ours will probably stop producing maybe mid-August. It gets really hot here, and they will probably burn up, but haven't shared this yet, so this is kind of some scoop. My husband and I were supposed to take our dream trip to Australia, and we were leaving this Friday. Obviously that's not happened because of COVID-19, so I took all of the money that I got refunded back from our stays and I bought a high tunnel. It will be here probably next week, and it is 50 feet by 16 feet wide. So we are gonna put it right here, and I'm gonna be able to extend our growing season, and we will be able to have tomatoes longer in the season, probably till the end of October. And I'm so excited, especially for my husband, because he loves tomatoes. We've already harvested some off of the micro cherry tomato, and that is one of his favorite things. He loves a garden grown tomato. These two are red cherry tomatoes like I have in the other bed. So I stuck those there. So this is our little cherry tomato area. Over here we have our cabbage. Our cabbage was just late to start. Not really sure if it's gonna make it through the heat. We'll try. We have Savoy cabbage and we have Dutch flat cabbage over here. You can also see I have some okra that I have planted here. This is the green or the velvet emerald or emerald velvet. I'll look at the variety and make sure I'm getting it right for you guys. We have a rogue lettuce. I planted lettuce here in this bed last year. It did not do well because I also planted it with the cucumbers. And even though I trellised the cucumbers, they kind of took over. But this guy keeps popping up, so we keep harvesting it and giving it to the chickens when we're here, or we'll take it home. Here we have radish and carrots. My carrots just did not germinate well, so I'm gonna try some different carrots in the fall garden. We don't particularly like radishes, but the chickens do, and some of our volunteers do, so I'm gonna grow some more radishes in the fall garden as well. And then we have Georgia sweet onions here. I love onions. Actually saw someone on a YouTube channel I follow that gave a tip that said when you see your onion limbs, leaves, stems flipping over like that, to clip them so that the onion knows to keep growing. We'll see if that works, because if it does, I will make sure that I do it for every onion. There. Okay, so this growing area is new. We did the rainbow arch trellis, and we have a razzmatazz grape. Bo, our 15-year-old, well, almost 16-year-old, helped me put the raised beds together. And in this bed, we have, like I said, the razzmatazz grape. I got this Jade Cross Brussels sprout at Walmart last week for 98 cents. So we'll put it here and see how it does. I have a couple sunflower seeds sown here. I have Keuka melon on this side as well. And I planted something else in this bed. I've got to go look at my garden notes. I don't remember what else, but I planted something else, or I think I was going to possibly put something else here once I saw how this bed looked as everything started germinating. Our artichokes looking great. I've clipped a couple of leaves off because it looked like they were dying. So they're looking really well now. Never grown artichoke before. I don't really eat a lot of artichoke, but I just thought it would be a pretty addition to the garden. Here in this bed, we have a 4th of July climbing rose that I planted from bare root, another Jade Cross Brussels sprout. I also have a couple of sunflower seeds planted throughout, and on this side I have noodle beans planted here, and I think I put one Keuka melon, I don't know, on this bed. Gray zucchini here. I have pruned these things so much. When I transplanted them and then we had the frost, I thought they were dead. They were not producing flowers. It did not appear like anything was happening here. I didn't even know if you could prune a squash plant. Did some research, saw that you could. Apparently you need to prune the leaves back, if you need to, below where the fruit is set. The squash is getting all of its energy from the stems that are above the fruit. So anything below where the fruit is set, you can prune back, because a lot of those were just dying and they looked terrible. But now that I've pruned them a couple weeks ago, you can see all this new growth coming out. We've got some golden zucchini here that's going to be ready soon. I'm excited about that. This little one's got a bunch of zucchini that are starting to get ready to come out there, so super excited about that. I've never grown gray zucchini before. I'm sure it tastes wonderful. It is a green color. It's just not as dark as the Black Beauty. So I'm really excited to try these. Here we have a chive here, 2 cantaloupes. These are ambrosia cantaloupe, a chamomile. I have some random okra spread through here. There's a nasturtium, marigold. And these are Ozark strawberry plants. There's 4 of them here. These I planted this year. We've already harvested a few strawberries off. These are our strawberries from last year, and I can't say the name of the variety, so I will have to look it up and put it in the show notes for you guys. But we went through and looked at all of our strawberries, and it looks like we're gonna have about 50 plus berries this year. So I know the kids are super excited about our strawberry plants this year. Last year they were a little bummed. We have local strawberry patches though that have strawberries, so we had plenty of strawberries last year, but they were really excited to have their own. So I'm looking forward to seeing these produce this year. In this bed, this is our melon bed. So we have Georgia Rattlesnake watermelons. We love watermelon. 2 of the beds did not germinate. So I had tossed around the idea of just letting them be and kind of grow these other plants toward those to fill up the space. I decided not to do that. I planted the golden midget watermelon here and some Kajari melon there. So pulled up the seed that didn't germinate and inspected those just to see if there was any specific reason why they didn't. I mean, nothing came up there. At least some of the beds have at least 1. And you can also see I have little okra growing up in here as well. So I have okra spread throughout. The okra will get tall enough where I can harvest while the watermelon are doing their thing. So that's what I was saying about okra earlier. It's a great companion plant. There's really not an enemy that I know of in the garden. The soil conditions do not have to be perfect for them. So, you know, plant, if you have like a little extra space or something didn't make it, just plant an okra there if you like okra. There's so many different ways to grow okra. I mean, to cook okra. There's so many different recipes that that okra is good in, and it's really great for your digestive tract as well. So here are our pumpkin. I don't remember which variety they are. I think these are jack-o'-lantern pumpkins. Our pumpkins did not do well last year. We planted them too late and they got too hot for our area, for here. So I'm really excited. I actually transplanted this one. I see one of its roots is I see one of its little roots right there that's not buried for some reason. I transplanted that one from one of these. Nothing popped up there. So nothing germinated in this section. So I hate thinning plants. I've talked about this before. I just feel like it's a waste. I know it's important to do, but it just kills me. So I just moved one of them. I had never transplanted a pumpkin before, so we'll see how it goes. These are Birdhouse Gourds. Some of them did not germinate. Some of them are just now germinating, and I planted them in April. And then in some spots there will be sunflowers, because in the spots where there were no germination of gourd, and there's still no germination in these 3 little hills of the sunflowers that I planted. Again, experimenting, trying to see how it works. We want the Birdhouse Gourds to grow because we want to attract martin birds down by the creek to help us with pest and insect control. Okay, in this bed we have our corn. I do Silver Queen sweet corn. I love white corn versus yellow corn. I prefer it. It is just my absolute favorite. I've also got a couple of zucchini plants in here. I had started them in the greenhouse and didn't have a spot for them. I'm planning on planting squash here later in the season. I wanted to give our corn an opportunity to pop out a little bit more. Now, I got a lot of kickback when I started planting my corn early. Last year, we planted it super late. I'm not going to throw my sister under the bus, but her wedding was in May of last year. Chris and I are from Atlanta. We're living in Northern Virginia, so we are far away from our family. That happens to a lot of military families. Even after you're no longer active duty, sometimes you typically just stay where you are, especially when you have children. So we are in Northern Virginia. All of our family is down in the metro Atlanta area, right outside of Atlanta. and some in Alabama. So my sister got married God, don't kill me, Chrissy, I'm sorry, May 15th, I think. And the weekend, so it was Mother's Day weekend last year, and the weekend before was our bachelorette party. So I had to fly down 2 weekends in a row, and I got overwhelmed because we were a little bit delayed on getting our beds put together last year and getting our soil prepared. So I don't think we planted our corn till late June, maybe early June, might have been June 1st. And it just burnt up. It was not developed enough when the heat came, and we don't have water out here right now. We have a well that was drilled pro bono, and tomorrow they're actually installing the pressure tank and the hydrants for us so that I will have water here in the garden. We've been catching water with rain barrel, and then we bring water out in containers every single day for the chickens and the garden. So last year we did the same. We didn't have the chickens here, but we did the same with the water. And it was a challenge. So as it started getting hotter in the year, it was just a challenge. So our corn did not do well last year. By the time I had planted the beans, the corns were just not developed enough, and the beans, some of the beans, because I did pole beans, and I'll do that again later this year once the corn is a little bit higher up, probably waist high. I'll add another direct sow of beans. The corn just didn't do great, so the corn didn't make it. I was bummed. Nothing in this area made it, so we made it a raised bed this year. We amended the soil, and each year we won't till this, we'll just add more compost, and we may move the corn next year. If it doesn't do well again here this year, we might move it over here to the bean section. So let's go over here and check this out. Okay, this is our experimental area as well. We have very, as you can see, clay soil here in our area. And we amended this with compost, and it still looks like we didn't do anything to it, but we did. It's not as hard as it looks. We put 3 rows of King of the Hill Lima Beans. King of the Hill? No, that's the show. King of the Garden? I don't know what they're called. I'll have to look up the variety. Lima beans. We put 3 rows in here. As you can see, not many made it. We had that 3+ inches of rain right after we planted all of our beans, and yeah, they just didn't make it. So these 3 rows are pinto beans. They are doing fabulous in this growing environment. And then I planted some sunflowers on this backside. And they're finally starting to germinate in this soil. I didn't know if they would make it. Again, you've got to experiment. So in all of these spots where there's nothing, over the weekend I planted bush bean, 2 varieties here, and in the very center row there. We did canter green beans and dragon's tongue. They're a green bean as well. I guess you could call them green, even though they're kind of pink spotted. They look like a dragon's tongue, I guess. And then here I put purple potted green beans. They're a pole variety. I put them here in all of the spots. So I probably planted 200 beans over here this weekend. And then I put more Christmas pole beans back here. We also have a couple of sunflowers that I planted on the end here that are doing great. Again, this is an experimentation. We may do our corn here next year. This is where we were originally going to do corn this year, and then we just decided to give it another try in that spot. We also did not, want the corn as it started to grow to shadow anything out. So essentially, I believe that concludes the tour. That is everything in the garden for this year. Things are starting to really take off, and we're starting to harvest. So that's always exciting. And now, Chris, if you're watching, don't kill me. But now we are going to start planting our fall garden. I'm going to start getting my plan together for what we're going to plant in the fall this year, what other summer crops we're going to plant in about a month so that we have succession planting, and have plenty of food to put up for the veterans we serve, our volunteer families that are interested in taking some of this harvest from us, and then put up some for our family as well. So I'm really excited about our garden this year. Again, this is week 3 tour. Next week, let's see what has changed and what I've added, because I'm always finding an empty spot somewhere for some new plant that I found or that I got on sale somewhere. So we'll see. Bye, y'all. See y'all next week.